Welcome to the Spark Creativity Teacher Podcast, a podcast for English teachers in search of creative teaching strategies. I'm Betsy Potash, and I'm glad to welcome you to episode 40, featuring ideas for your dream ELA classroom. The podcast is turning 1 year old this month. I want to take a minute to thank all of you who have left reviews for the show. I appreciate it so much. I was really honored to read the most recent review. Here it is. Betsy Potash is not only a brilliant master teacher, she has a real gift for distilling down her ideas and activities into 10 to 15-minute episodes that, just as the name promises, spark classroom creativity. Her episode show notes are the best part. She really delivers on providing the materials needed to implement the ideas she shares on the podcast. If I could only use one educator resource for LP ideas to improve my practice, it would be the Spark Creativity Teacher podcast. Wow, thank you so much, Chris, for your thoughtfulness. I really appreciate this amazing review. If you guys enjoy this show, I'd love for you to leave a review too. It just takes a minute and it really, truly inspires me in my work. This episode was inspired by a post in my Facebook group, Creative High School English. A teacher there was given the chance to request anything she wanted for a brand new classroom in a brand new building. What, she asked the group, should I ask for? I loved reading everyone's responses, and it got me thinking about my own dream ELA classroom. Though most of us will never have the opportunity to request a classroom built just for us, this show is all about dream elements you can add to any classroom. Okay, let's start with flexible seating. Flexible seating is so hot right now, but it's a trend I can really get behind. Setting up a few fun spots in your classroom where students can retreat to read, meet with a small group, or talk to you one-on-one for a meeting is just a really great idea. Google does it. I think that's enough said. So think about your classroom. Is there a place you could put a couple of little stools? Is there a little counter or a lonely table? Maybe there's a sunny corner that's right for some beanbag chairs where kids could hang out and read a book, or a wall where you could push a big old couch that you find at a rummage sale. These kind of little things can actually make a huge difference in your classroom. Moving on, the choice reading library. For me, this is a must. In my experience, kids simply read so much more if I can bring the books they will love right into the classroom and show them off. I love to be changing out book displays, adding fun posters that feature different amazing books, and every once in a while popping over to my library and doing some book talks to help get the latest and the greatest books off the shelf into my students. Choice reading books can make a beautiful element in your classroom because they're colorful, they're interesting. The covers are enough to just light up a corner of the classroom. So grab a bookshelf or a big table and just start spreading out your reading library a little bit so kids can really see it. Another fun element in a dream ELA classroom would be a magnetic poetry wall. If you think about it, magnetic poetry is really a pretty amazing writing tool. It gets students thinking, or maybe a little nervous when confronted with the suggestion that they write a poem, but when they have all these words right in front of them, it's inspiring. If you can put up some magnetic poetry on a file cabinet or some other magnetic surface in your room, and then maybe put a prompt out now and then on a felt board or a little nearby chalkboard, you're going to give students this little creative break, this creative space in your classroom where if they're done early or they get there early, they can just write a poem. I've noticed on Pinterest there are a lot of ideas, and I think that these are mostly put out there for toddlers, but I think they'd be great in a high school classroom. Get one of the huge oil drip pans. They're like $12 at Walmart, according to every toddler blogger, and hang it up on your classroom wall. It's the perfect frame where kids can put that poetry up if you don't have another magnetic surface. Another great classroom element is to put together some posters for your classroom. Now, if you enjoy design, this is something you can do yourself. You can choose some of your favorite quotations, favorite sayings, favorite literary terms, and you can design your own posters. But I've also noticed that a lot of folks over on Teachers Pay Teachers have created lovely sets of classroom posters that are free. And I'm going to link to a bunch of them in today's show notes. When you choose one of these sets, you just go on, you download it for free. You can print them out and laminate them, or another fun option is to just use a really cheap set of poster frames, document frames that you can order on Amazon. I did this with a set of posters that I put together, and it was really easy, and they look a lot better, and they hold up a lot better. So check out the links in the show notes today. You'll see posters for a bulletin board about classroom community random acts of kindness, a justice versus injustice bulletin board set of posters, inspirational quotes for reading, classroom creativity posters, literary inspired anti-bullying posters. And if you go online, you can search and find even more. We Are Teachers, the website, also puts out a lot of free posters throughout the year. So if you get a set of frames, you can kind of be rotating posters through them and kind of lighting up your wall that way. Another thing I would really recommend in the ideal classroom is to have name tents. Now, I like to use these starting on the very first day of class. I print them out with my students' names very large on the front of these little sort of folding papers that I put out on the desks. And I ask them to draw a little bit about themselves, maybe write a favorite quote, maybe write a goal or some attributes about themselves, so that when I look at their name card, I don't just see their name, but I learn a little bit about them on that first day. And after the first day, I keep that pile of name tents, and I find it the best system in the world for a quick classroom seating chart. So I don't do it every day, but every once in a while, if I want to put students in groups and I have a sense of who I want in what group, I will just put the name tents out, and they have to sit wherever their name tent is. And it's just an automatic, quick way to assign groups. It's also great if you're having a little issue with classroom management and you'd like to separate some certain students. It literally takes me a minute and a half to throw all those name tents out on the desk before class, and then just take a peek and make sure it's in an order that I like, and that if there are any issues I see that they're going to be between two students that are close together, I just move them apart. And for me, that's a lot easier than creating a chart and then somehow sharing that chart with all the students and then hoping that they'll remember it every day and checking on them. If I just throw those name cards out, I know they're going to be sitting right where I want them sitting. Another thing I love having in my classroom is a stack of journals for every class. So I usually just get some bins, some sort of plastic crates, and label them with all the different sections. And then I have my students put their journals in that box, usually in the first couple days of school. And then throughout the year, if I want them to journal, I just say, go grab your journals, journal, put them back. I don't check these a whole lot. They're just a really nice tool for a lot of different things in class. They can be great as students are coming in if you want them to just be writing while you're setting up some other activity. They can be great for early finishers. They're a great backup plan. They're a great thing to have if students finish your lesson plan before you expect, which can always happen. What I like to do with journals is somehow fill in the front cover and the back cover with some ideas for what they're going to write. So there will be times when I assign a topic, but there will also be times when I want them to just write about whatever. And for students who find that challenging, I like having something in that front cover. So you can either go around and have every student contribute a topic, or you can type up your own list of topics and have them glue them into their front covers, whatever you want to do. But it's nice just to know that you're set with those journals. They already have a place to write. They have a bunch of stuff to write on, and it's just a really convenient thing. All right, so for the coffee-loving teachers, it might be a fun element in your dream classroom to have a coffee corner. I've been seeing this a lot on Instagram. Technically, I don't drink coffee, which I know is weird, but I see so many other teachers who love it so much. So if that's you and your students feel the same way, it might be fun to get one of those little fancy machines where students can bring in the little pods, and you can put out some colorful mugs or let them bring in their own and have a little coffee corner in your classroom. This is just one of those things that might make you smile and light up your day a little bit. Same goes for having a little candy stash in your classroom. Stocking a box or drawer of candy is just good planning because there are going to be times when you're exhausted and need a little candy, or you need a quick prize or reward for a game that you've just invented off the cuff, or you just feel like your students are exhausted and you want to cheer them up a little bit. So personally, I love sharing the candy called Smarties with students. I know you know why. And so that can be a nice thing to fill up a drawer with. In my dream ELA classroom, I would probably have about 20 bulletin boards. So whenever possible, if you can request it from your school or if you can find some at rummage sales or whatever, try to have lots of bulletin boards, different shapes, different sizes, colors, or one of those cork board strips that goes all around your classroom. It's just so helpful to be able to change up the displays and to be showcasing a lot of wonderful student work throughout the year. Taping it to the wall is a thing. It's a thing that I've done a lot, but it's so much easier if you can just tack it. It just takes so much less time. Another fun thing that never would have occurred to me until I started seeing them everywhere on Instagram is a felt board or a little quotation chalkboard that you can stand up in the corner of your classroom. And again, this is just one of those things that could bring you some joy. If you're into quotations, it's fun to be able to put up something inspiring on your felt board or your quotation board and change that up every once in a while. It's kind of like how I feel about my wallpaper on my desktop. When I'm trying to sort of reorganize and clean things up and make a fresh start with my work, I like to change the wallpaper on my computer background. And changing up your felt board or your quotation chalkboard is kind of the same. It's like this little bright light in your classroom. And speaking of bright lights, one thing I would definitely have if I had total space and budget to do whatever I want in a classroom is alternative lighting. I think since I was about 4 years old, I've hated fluorescent lighting, and I know I'm not the only one. So if you can, diversify the lighting in your room a little bit. Throw a standing floor lamp in next to your reading library, or put some strings of Christmas lights up around your bulletin boards. Maybe do white Christmas lights so you can keep them up all year long. Personally, for me, it's just so nice to have a softer light some of the time, and it just gives everybody's eyes a little break. It's also really kind of cheerful in the winter when things are a little darker and bleaker. I think this is a really nice thing to consider. In your dream classroom, I bet your desk would be really organized, and that is just not something that's going to happen on its own. So one fun way to give some attention to making your classroom dreamy is to really organize your desk. It requires a little bit of forethought. So you need some trays where you can have students' work organized, maybe a box where you can have papers that you're going to be grading. Hit Target, hit Staples, the Container Store, find some fun organizers, some cute little jars, some craft boxes where you can stash all your things. Having places to actually put all the stuff that you know is going to be landing on your desk will really help make it nice. Having some specific folders for each section of your classes where you can stick photocopies that need to be handed out can be really helpful. If you can make your desk the kind of place where you actually want to sit and work, it will, of course, be more pleasant to sit and work there. Next up, I'm going to suggest the About Me bulletin board. And I first saw this with one of my colleagues back in Bulgaria, and I loved it. He put up all these photos of himself and his girlfriend traveling around in Europe, and he had little bio information under them about his travels and his life and his family. And it never occurred to me really to do that before. I introduced myself to my students, but I didn't walk them through that much of my personal story. But I actually think it helps them connect to you so much to know more about your life. And some students will ask, and then you'll build that bond with them. But if you put up a little information about yourself, maintain your privacy, of course. But if you put up a little bit of your life history, of some important moments of your life, some cool pictures, I think you'll create some points of connection with your students. They'll see, oh, wow, she's a tennis player. I'm a tennis player. Or, oh, she's been to Greece and I'm from Greece or whatever, little things that maybe could help you start to build relationships with your students. Another fun element that I love having in my classroom is the Student Work Hall of Fame. If you're like me, you save the most amazing work that your students do. And it's easy to let this just sort of mount up in a dusty closet shelf. But it's a lot better, for me anyway, to put it up on a bulletin board or on a bookshelf for students to see so that they can be inspired. Pick out the incredible illustrations, the beautiful programs for events, their inspiring blackout poetry and one-pagers, and put it up for everybody to see. And then when you're going to start a project and you have an old example in your Hall of Fame, just kind of drift over there and say, hey, look at this. This is an example that my student Bobby did 4 years ago, and it was just so amazing. I wanted to save it to show you guys and let them take a careful look. And I think you'll find that will help them set their sights high when they're starting a new project. Another good thing to have in your classroom is a charging station. If you have tech options available to you, or if your students bring in their own tech, it's really helpful to have a special area for charging them. I've seen a lot of great pictures online of how you can really label the locations for technology that needs to be charged and technology that's ready to go. So consider having a special area in your classroom just for charging and storing your tech. Similarly, you might want to have a phone parking place. Try getting one of those little shoe caddies that people hang over their closet doors, and then add a little sign that says phone parking or phones at rest, and let students just pop their smartphones into those little pockets. They'll be safe, they'll be out of their hands and pockets, and none of you will have to worry about them. Another great thing is to have a little basket of art materials, or if it's possible for you, a gigantic basket of art materials. I love doing some art-based interdisciplinary activities, and so I'm always a big fan of having some Flair pens, some colored pencils. Some students are going to carry around this kind of thing, but not many. And those students are the ones that are really into art. And you want to try to hook the rest into your art projects too. So if you're going to do sketch notes or one-pagers or design graphic novels or make murals, it's really nice if you can just pull this basket of materials out and say, art materials are available. Please treat them with respect. And then watch your students have a chance to add a little color and life into their art. Last couple here, guys. One thing I've always loved is having a theater corner. I got a little grant to put one of these together in my first year of teaching, and it was such a nice thing. It was a very small grant, but it gave me the push to go out to Goodwill and to rummage sales and to a theater costume shop and pick out some things for my students for when we were acting things out in class. So it can be really simple. You can have some old glasses, some wigs, a suit coat, a funny dress, just a few things stashed in a closet or a big crate on a bookshelf. And it's so fun to watch teenagers get excited about dressing up. I really cannot recommend this anymore because you can do readers' theater, you can act out scenes from Shakespeare, you can do 60-second versions of novels, you can do one-act play festivals. There's so much possibility in using theater in class, and having these just little props to help students get out of their self-consciousness and into character is so helpful. Finally, a small thing. Consider having a beanbag or a beach ball in class. They can both be nice tools for discussion. I like using a beanbag sometimes for student-led discussion and just saying, look, guys, when you have the beanbag, you can talk and then look around and see who's about to talk next and toss it to them. So only talk when you have it, and then be paying attention to the classroom dynamics and moving the ball along when it's the next person's turn. And a beanbag is critical. If you bring a ball, it will bounce when the person misses it and cause ultimate classroom chaos. So don't do that. You have to have a beanbag. But for the other technique, the Socratic beach ball, I haven't tried this, but I've seen so many examples of other teachers enjoying it that I'm going to include it here. You get a beach ball and you write different questions on the stripes around the ball. that could be used for any novel. And it's just kind of a fun literary analysis activity to float the beach ball around your discussion group and let kids ask and answer the question that they catch. So whatever they're looking at when they catch the ball. And that's a fun way to get warmed up for maybe a more specific discussion of the novel that you're doing. So I think that's all the elements in my dream ELA classroom. I would love to know more about the elements in your dream ELA classroom. If you want to pop into my Facebook group, Creative High School English, we're always talking about things like that. So please do. Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to check out the show notes for a complete write-up of this show, head to www.nowsparkcreativity.com and click on the Podcasts tab at the top of the page. While you're there, sign up for my email list and you'll receive 4 free and fabulous one-pager templates with complete instructions for your students. This is the most popular curriculum I've designed this year or ever, and thousands of teachers have already downloaded it. I'm amazed by all the positive feedback I've been getting, and I love to see the photos of student work. I think you're going to love this creative strategy, and the results will make an amazing display in your dream classroom. The Spark Creativity Teacher Podcast is a proud member of the Education Podcast Network. The Education Podcast Network, podcasts for educators, podcasts by educators. For more podcast recommendations, visit edupodcastnetwork.com.